Yo, 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 welcome back to the Out the Box Show. I'm John Wallace alongside my co-host James Luffy, and LSU baseball is the Baton Rouge Regional Champions. What a weekend of baseball. The weather tried to get in the way of it. That was no match for the LSU Tigers. Tigers get it done, punch their ticket to the Super Regional at the box this coming weekend. And Luffy, I want to go ahead and remind you of the mudslide that you owe the Out the Box faithful for LSU's win. Stu Feiner gave you a personal shout out on your birthday, if you remember correctly. And I think if anything calls for you to actually stay true to your word on that, it would be LSU punching their ticket to the regional or the super regional.
Oh, the Super Regional? We celebrated Super Regionals like Kentucky celebrated theirs last night.
I did have that written down in my notes. That was quite something. You would have literally thought they just won not even the College World Series, the actual World Series, the MLB World Championship. No, Luffy, that was a great comeback. I called you out, and you had exactly the right message coming back for me. Kentucky did celebrate their regional. I wouldn't be too upset if I was heading back down to Baton Rouge, where LSU, way back on April 15th, took care of business against me. That's right. We're going to get into all of that. Kentucky heads to the box this weekend. The Super Regional starts this Saturday. Kind of weird, a little weird schedule. It's no longer going to be Friday night at the box, but LSU baseball has proven that they play well during the day, and we are going to break it all down. But before we do all that, I want to give a huge shout out to the Boot Crew Media Network. Make sure to follow the Boot Crew Media Network, bootcrewmedia.com, and on social media at Boot Crew Media. I know Chris is cooking up an article right now. It will be available on our social media as soon as it is available. I said it last week, and I'll say it again. Chris wrote probably one of my favorite articles that he's ever written last week, and it was posted to bootcrewmedia.com. Make sure to check it out. Awesome content. They got all kind of stuff. It's summertime. Boot Crew Media, bootcrewmedia.com, and on social media at Boot Crew Media. Also, huge shout out to Blaine Loop with Forte Realty. Blaine is with Forte Realty now. He wants you to call him at 504-858-0031 for all your housing needs. Blaine is the man. Blaine is my personal realtor. He is a huge LSU baseball fan and a great supporter of the Out the Box podcast. He wants to be your friend, your neighbor, and your agent. Please make sure to call or text him at 504-858-0031 for all your housing needs. Summertime's all about resetting, and maybe you want to reset the place you're living, whether that be somewhere that you are renting, you want to find somewhere else to rent, you want to find somebody to rent out your investment property, you want to sell your old home to buy the new home of your dreams, you name it, Blaine wants to help you out. 504-858-0031 for all your housing needs. All right, James.
All right.
Like I said, I don't think we need to celebrate it as much as Kentucky celebrated their regional victory, but it is an accomplishment. It is a milestone. Yeah. It is one of, I believe, Manera used to say that you have to win like 5 or 6 championships to actually win the granddaddy of them all. So this would be, I guess, number 3 in the championship rankings. The first one being the regular season champions, the second being the SEC champions, and now this would be the regional championship. So we got one. We punched our ticket to the Super Regional. We're one of 16 college baseball teams still standing. Are you still riding high after this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, you had to feel pretty good about the performance. Struggled at times at the plate, but the pitching staff as a whole was phenomenal. And if you feel like if they can do that, then we really have a chance. And it's going to be hard to be repeated what they did, but they did it against a good offensive team in Oregon State. Twice, so I think that's certainly a big positive. And then there's multiple guys that we can sit here and talk about at the plate. Obviously, Dylan Cruz was 8 for 13, big hit after big hit, but it's about the guys who came back, and could have transferred. Josh Pearson being one of them, Hayden Travinski, Gabe Beloso could have not, showed up and played this year, and those guys had massive weekends for us. And I think they were the difference.
All right, so let's jump right in. Let's break it all down. We're going to touch on everything leading into the Super Regional, and then we're going to give a preview of that. But I think the main headline of the weekend was the decision heard all around the world to start Skeens on Friday at 2 p.m. I know I can pretty much say that I didn't talk to one person that was like a fan of the decision in the moment, but me and you were talking about this throughout the whole weekend. We watched every game together, Well,
Yeah,
except for the Friday game, you were actually at the game. I was over. Somebody had to hold down Ivars. Friday afternoons at Ivars were a little bit slow, so somebody had to keep revenue flowing over there. But
yeah, and we were texting, kind of when this news broke, and it was like he was either going to have a really short start in hopes of running them back out there maybe on a Monday game, but that was not really likely because we would need him to pitch that first game in the Super Regional. But it was either that or he needs to go. I said in the text he needs to go at least 8 innings because if you're going to use him, he had to go deep into the game and save your staff for the entire weekend. And it was basically like guaranteeing a win. And Jay thought that was the best scenario. He didn't say that it was because of weather. Some people speculated that. He did not come out and say that. So, yeah, it ended up working out for him.
I think it was at least in the back of his mind. I don't think it was the main reason. I think he went out there and he told Skeens, I need 9 innings from you. I need every bit of my bullpen heading into this weekend. If things go south, I need to be able to just plug and play in my bullpen. And Skeens did exactly that. Obviously,
was hot, but they weren't a good team at the plate. He only had 12 strikeouts. I say only 12, but part of that is helps him get through the game with only 124 pitches, which is a lot of pitches, but for 9 innings, that's solid.
Yeah, and I mean, the more I start to think about the decision, the more it made sense. Like it was one of those decisions that if it doesn't work out, and say for some weird chance, Skeens just doesn't end up doing that well, and he gets thrown out of there in like the 4th or the 5th, then you're stuck in no man's land. He can't pitch again for the rest of the weekend, and then you got to eat up your bullpen against a team who was 19-40 or whatever heading into the game. So all that to say, phenomenal performance from Skeens. He's about, I believe he's like 23 or 24 strikeouts away from Ben McDonald's record. So I think he's sitting somewhere around 178. If you give me a minute, I can pull up the stat. But I am obviously, as well as everybody, rooting for him to surpass that and reach that milestone. He'll have done it in significantly less innings than Ben McDonald did. And I think if anybody's rooting for him to break that record, it would be Ben McDonald, who, by the way, was phenomenal on the call this past weekend.
He wants to see us play in Omaha for sure.
Yes. So, all right. So Skeens goes 9 innings, gives up 7 hits, 124 pitches. By the way, he was throwing 101, 102 on pitch 122 or whatever. Like it's stupid. But we already know that. And some, the only real negative would be that a kid from Tulane gets to say that he hit off of the number 1 pick in the MLB draft. But other than that, LSU took care of business. Saturday night, Oregon State, Sam Houston played. Sam Houston punched their ticket to play us on Saturday, or what was supposed to be Saturday at 7 p.m. We kind of waited around. They didn't finish up the Oregon State and the Tulane game early on, and it was kind of a question like, are they going to play tonight? They can't start another game or another inning past 11 p.m. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, it's canceled. Let's push it to tomorrow. We'll finish the first game Sunday morning, and then LSU is going to be ready to rock at 2 p.m. So LSU was able to get the win on Saturday. It was one of the longest games of baseball if you count the weather delay. It was about a 3-hour weather delay. But LSU was able to get the job done, 6-5. Did get out hit this game, which we'll get to. But Ty Floyd came out, kind of struggled a little bit early on, was giving up some hits, had 5 strikeouts, 2 walks, but was kind of getting up there in his pitch count by the 3rd inning. I mean, he was at 71 pitches by the time they called for the weather delay. And then 3 hours later, he's not going to come back in after throwing 71 pitches. So Thatcher Hurd comes in, pitches phenomenally, gave us 5 good innings, 12 strikeouts through 99 pitches. And then our closer, I'm deeming him our closer, Gavin Guidry, came in and pitched phenomenally. Did you feel the same way about our pitching staff on Sunday?
Yeah, I didn't think I think Floyd would have. I think he could have settled down and given us a couple more innings. Over his last 4 starts, he's only given up. He's giving up well less than a hit an inning, which is really solid. And if he's able to throw strikes, you think you're pretty confident in him again this weekend. But Thatcher Hurd, he did give up some hits. He gave up some earned runs, but 12 strikeouts against a good team. He made a few mistakes, but he really won us that game. Uh, so he just seems to be gaining confidence, which is huge. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what they do with him this coming up weekend because do you start him in that game too? Do you save him for game one to close the game out? Do you, if Floyd gets in trouble, do you throw him in there depending on how many runs we're down, or do you save him to start for the game three? So there's a lot of different interesting ways that Jay could use him. I really don't know what he'll do for going forward. I would assume if we had a decent lead and Skeens had pitched 7 innings, that you'd probably see Gavin Guidry or maybe Ackenhausen then Guidry, and then you'd save Hurd. But I don't know. He was great. Gavin Guidry, you could tell he's got that dog in him. He's just one of those guys. Jay said he was a leader. He loves being out there. He loves to compete, and when he's able to locate that spinner, it's really good. It's a really good pitch.
I love a freshman coming in like Gavin Guidry and finding any way he can to contribute, right? Like he was a
Yeah.
highly recruited. He was going to play infield for LSU, maybe not shortstop because Jordan Thompson kind of had that lockdown. Who, by the way, has had a couple errors lately, no cause for concern, but
Some
um,
really good play as well. I mean, he's
right.
almost he gets so much shit for the errors, but that play he made running back um, in the Tulane game was great when he dove in the outfield and made that catch. And then the play he made against Oregon State to field that ball at shortstop and throw it back to Stravinsky to get that runner running from third to home was also a really high level play that most shortstops aren't going to make. But he will kind of boot the occasional one and kind of get ahead of himself. But other than that, I think he's been very solid there. He struggled at the plate some, but kind of got going. Hopefully in that last game.
Yeah, and the mention of the errors wasn't to like say that we need, we need to make a move or that there's any problem with it. He is very competitive, and some of the plays, I mean, you're like there's no shot that that's going to happen. And when you have a guy like Morgan at first base that can scoop it or hop up in the air the way he does, I mean, it actually works very well. It gives Jordan Thompson that ability to be as aggressive as he is, right? And
Yeah,
even if he at the plate is not 100% on that day, he's still a fantastic presence at short. Um, okay, a couple other notable things to mention about this game: Hayden
yeah,
Travinsky, Jay
yeah,
Beloso, they're the Splash Brothers. I think that's pretty much what everybody was saying in the Cajun-omics chat. They hit their first of 2 back-to-back jacks of the weekend in this game. That was awesome to
yeah.
see. Jay Beloso, I mean, we've had him on the show so many times, and he's like, it is so cool to see him doing well. Like you said, Luffy, he could have gone anywhere and maybe got some more playing time, but I mean, he
And
made the
same with
all.
Travinsky. It's great to
He
see
made
both those guys having that success. I mean, Travinsky was the third
right,
catcher to start the year and didn't play in an SEC game, I think, until Ole Miss. So,
right,
and he's hit 10 home runs in 80 at bats, John. He's hitting one every 8 at bats.
yeah, and I mean,
And it
and
seems like
and
more than that.
his bat flips when he hits a home run, like
Yeah.
it's like next level because he knows it before anybody in the stadium or anybody on TV. Like he knows it before the pitcher even like goes and shrugs his shoulder and grabs the rosin bag. Like it really is cool to see guys that are stepping up, knowing how deep this team is heading into Omaha, and it's next man up, and that's how it's been all
Yeah,
year.
and for Beloso too, we thought he may be the difference maker this week, and his veteran presence. I mean, those back to back homers um, were just absolutely massive, and that juiced the energy in the stadium, and we were able to get up, take the lead on them, and then from there, kind of finish it off. But yeah, and at Cruz, we didn't talk about him, but he started with the first game, 3 for 3. Um, he was great again, and really all 3 games. But it was fun, like going to get to see him for one of the last times at the box for sure. You could tell the fans like really appreciated him there.
I mean, you could tell in his post game interview on TV, whether it was yesterday or today, it was like, or yesterday or on Sunday, it was like, he's like, I've dreamed about this since I was a freshman on campus and since he was little. Like, he's literally living his dream. That's why he passed up on money early on and came to LSU. That's why guys do that. It just, I hate to sound like mainstream or whatever, like the SEC, but it does mean more coming to LSU baseball. So, like you said, very cool to see. I'm loving what I'm seeing out of this team. The only thing, and like I said, and I've mentioned this before on the show, I do not like seeing LSU get out hit. I know we won.
Yeah.
It was a tight game, but
It seemed like a couple guys carried us through this game. I mean, and you could tell after us being down when Cruz hit that home run, he showed a lot of emotion just to speak on like how much that meant to him. He doesn't show emotion, and then he hits that home run and he's flexing, yelling at the dugout, going around first, which is very rare to see that out of him. We see that out of a lot of guys, but not really him most of the time.
Yes. All right, moving on to Game 3. Game 3 was played Monday at 1 p.m. And I actually think, and this is where we're going to talk about Jay Johnson being an absolute genius. Like, he's almost like a war general. Like, he's almost like, I think I sent a text in our group text, like, he could outflank Napoleon at the Battle of Waterloo for predicting this weather. Because whenever I announced the weather on the podcast last week, I was pretty nonchalant about it. I was like, oh, it's only 20, 30% spotty to isolated showers in the evening. It ought to be a great weekend of baseball. And then out of nowhere, it just starts thundering and lightning and raining sideways on Sunday.
Yeah, and I mean, shout out Davis, but Davis trying to call you out for the weather when we record 5 days before the game or 5 days before Saturday. It changes. It's summer in Baton Rouge.
I mean, dude, we're at the point in the year. I mean, I was telling a guy at work today, like, it's going to rain every afternoon at some point or another for the next at least month, and that's just what it is in Baton Rouge. So, other than that, I'm glad you mentioned Davis. He said, some of y'all's takes were a little bit off, and I just pulled up the take of me predicting that LSU wasn't going to lose the game this weekend, and look at that, John Stradamus is right again. So, yep. All right. Moving on. So there was another game to be played after LSU sat for 3 hours and finished Game 2 against Oregon State. Oregon State had to suit back up and play Sam Houston State after the game ended, I think sometime around 8-ish, I think. I don't know. We were sitting there cracking jokes, and I wasn't really looking at the time. But and we also had work the next day, so that was kind of stunk as well. But Oregon State was just depleted by Monday, right? You could tell. I mean, it was.
Yeah, some of the guys hadn't pitched in months, John.
What's that?
Some of their guys hadn't pitched in months, little in a game that threw against us. I mean, that's how depleted they were.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the box score. LSU wins by a score of 13-7. LSU had 19 hits. Like, that's the type of stupid number that you were seeing a little bit more consistently towards the beginning of the season. But it was just, like you said, it was too little too late for Oregon State. LSU's bullpen was managed phenomenally. And that's kind of what I was saying about Jay Johnson being a genius. Like, it's almost like he knew Skeens was going to go 9 innings. He had enough faith in him, which who wouldn't, right? Skeens is not human at this point. But managing it as well, starting Cooper in Game 3 on Monday. I mean, Cooper came out and gave 3 2/3 good innings, only gave up 2 hits, 2 walks, and had 4 strikeouts. Yes. That's exactly what you want from a guy like Riley Cooper in a game that the other team's pitching's depleted, and you have to just hit more and score more runs than them.
Yeah, and all 3. I mean, Ackenhausen and Griffin Herring as well. I mean, those guys, they came out, if they pound the strike zone, they really, really give themselves a good chance to go out there and have a good outing. And the really only time those guys get in a lot of trouble is when they can't find the strike zone. And, hopefully that's a confidence boost for all those guys. They all pitched pretty well. And that was huge. Cruz, Travinsky, the back-to-back bombs again by Killatrav and by Beloso was awesome. Just Tommy White is really the one guy I think that probably struggled the most. Him and Thompson. Trey Morgan was struggling a little bit, got a couple hits in that final game, which was good to see. But I think Tommy White was pressing a little bit early on, and I think he'll be all right. But it's not always a bad thing to have a guy maybe slump a little bit during the regional to only get hot maybe for the rest of this hopefully run.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about him at all. He's going to make contact. There's a reason he's got 100 RBIs thus far on the season. I think he's going to be fine. He's just got to put the ball in play, kind of maybe stop swinging at the balls a little up and away, and he'll be good to go. So. All right, I think that about tells the story of the regional. A few questions I had written down, that we already kind of discussed is Jay a genius? The fact that I think what made the Skeens decision so correct in Jay's mind after it all played out was the weather. Was Floyd going out there and pitching 3 innings, and then you have this weather delay, and then you have Thatcher hurt? Well, those are your 3 main starters. And say Skeens were to pitch the second game, then you would have only got 3 innings out of him for the weather delay. He's already been burned by Skeens getting burned by a weather delay before. So he didn't take any chances with that. And that's why he was able to pitch Skeens against Tulane, which ended up being a great move because he didn't have to use his bullpen. The weather, definitely crazy. Another thing. Go ahead.
The weather was trash at time, which if you need someone, you need a place to throw out your trash. You need a big portable luxury restroom rental. You need roll-off dumpsters to throw your trash away. You're redoing the house. You've got to call Workbox. You've got to call Martine at Workbox if you need cleanest porta potties if you're having a tailgate this weekend. They got the big luxury restroom rentals. They got the storage containers. They got the portable offices. Anything you might need. They're the cleanest porta potties in the state. You have to call Martine at Workbox at 225-343-4886 if you need a storage container, portable office, portable luxury restroom rentals, porta potties, roll-off dumpsters. Call Martine at Workbox. It's 225-343-4886.
Harvey, that's why you're such a great co-host. You sensed that I was setting you up with the weather being trash, and you just took – you knew immediately. You just got right to the point. Make sure to call or text Martine at Workbox. He's the man. I was with him literally all weekend. All right. So LSU plays Kentucky. We said it at the beginning of the show. They freaked out about winning their regional. A little recap for you. LSU and Kentucky fared against each other in mid-April. Kentucky came to the box. The first game, LSU went up 14-1 after the third inning. Paul Skeens pitched phenomenally. He had 13 Ks, went 6 innings, did his typical deal. We run-ruled him in the first game. Second game, Floyd and Herring gave up 12 hits, kind of got hit around in 6 and a third.
A lot of errors in that game, a lot of errors. Ty Floyd kind of got screwed over. We 2 errors that weren't counted as errors in that game. Joe Bear completely dropped that. He didn't even touch it, actually. Remember that? And it ended up scoring, 3 runs? And those are all credited to Floyd. So we did play some bad defense in that game.
Sure, I was just kind of painting a picture, but
LSU dropped. I know that the earned runs didn't really reflect the defense played because they weren't actual errors.
That's a good point. So LSU drops game 2 by a score of 10-13, and then LSU took the rubber match by a score of 7-6. That was back when Jared Jones had 2 home runs in a game.
Yeah, he had some kind words to the pitcher.
Right. That was phenomenal. I wish we got to see a little bit more of that. at this point in the season. But faith and trust in Jay. You have to just trust what he's doing. You have to trust the process. So anyway, hearing that recap, Luffy, what do you think about us playing Kentucky this weekend, knowing what we know, knowing that we ruled them in game one, lost to them in game two. Granted, there was some errors, and then game three we were able to squeak out the win.
Yeah, I think we can't give them free bases. Really, they're a team that likes to run, bunt, and steal. And we've struggled at times to play defense, and we did against them at times. And I think that it's a tough matchup in that regard. We should have a little bit of an edge though, pitching and at the plate. So if we can continue some momentum from that final game, I think that it matches up pretty well. It's tough to be a team twice. That's what everybody says, but I'm not buying into that too much. I'm glad we didn't sweep them. That would scare me more.
Does Kentucky have our number for our series win back in April?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be fired up, but I don't think that there's any true motivation. It's a super regional. They're playing for a spot in Omaha. I don't think that really plays too much into a factor in this regard. If it was a rematch in a regular season series, or maybe in the SEC tournament, I'm not sure that. I think that maybe could mean a little bit more, but now the stakes are so high, everybody should be locked in.
Does Paul Skeens pitch Saturday at 2 p.m.?
Yes, especially, well, let me just say yes if the weather is cooperating.
So I'm glad you said that, Luffy. Right now, on Tuesday, as we record this, the weather sits at a 44% or a 40% chance of rain, high 94, low 72. Going to be a scorcher out there. During the day, it's going to be hot and humid with scattered showers and thunderstorms. And in the evening, it's going to be partly cloudy with the sun rising at 6:01 a.m. and setting at 8:06 p.m. The moon phase is going to be a last quarter, and the UV index is going to be an 11, which is extreme. So, does Jay Johnson make a move if that weather chance increases towards the week? The last thing you want Skeens to do is go out there and pitch 3 innings, then be toast for the rest of the weekend.
No, I think the decision will be made when he turns that card in, because the up-to-date weather, there's radar up-to-date is pretty much constantly, and I think they'll wait to the last second, because I do think he probably should pitch in that first game, but he'll have a full week's rest, and I think that you decide right before the game. What do you think?
I think he's gonna go with Skeens. I think last week was just kind of like as Chris mentioned, Chris even stated that it's harder to win a regional than it is a super regional, which he did say is a hot take. But
no, I said that last week when we recorded as well.
Yeah, I mean it potentially can be if you don't win every single game.
You can end up playing 5 games, instead of maximum 3. So you just have to be deeper if you get into that losers bracket, really. But you still got to win 3 games instead of 2. So.
Yeah, I mean, think about what would Oregon State have done if they would have won game 1 on Monday and then had to play a third game. Would they have had a second game that day? Would they have thrown their grad assistant manager out there?
Just think, John, if we would have had to play that game at night, that they had to play after that long game. I mean, we barely won that game. We don't have to play that game at night. We save probably our 3 next guys, besides Javen Coleman. He's really the only guy that we probably expected to pitch that we didn't see. Anybody else that I'm missing? For me, it's probably just Javen that I thought for sure would pitch this weekend. If I went down the list of guys, I think everyone pitched but Javen, and that's because of what Skeens did for sure on that first night. But that being said, where would you have gone, really? I mean, because Little's kind of been in the doghouse, Money's kind of been in the doghouse. Those are the guys that would have had to pitch in that final game. So, or in one of the possibly 2 final games. So it's really important to win that first game.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. I thought Coleman was going to start Game 3 on Monday. That was just my opinion. But Riley Cooper did a phenomenal job getting the ball rolling on the game set match, if you will. But I do think had we would have played another game on Monday, I think David Coleman would have started, and then you just got you. I mean, you roll with what you got, right? I think you would have seen
I would
Christian
agree. He definitely would have been the first pitcher up.
right. Um, so, all right, Luffy,
All right.
tell me what you're thinking. Are
I'm
we
thinking.
going to are we going to get the job done in 2 games or 3, or are we not going to get the job done at all?
I think. I think we have to get it. I think we have to get it done in 2 games. I think we need to win this in 2 games. If it goes to 3, I'm saying we lose Game 3.
Dude, wow.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we either win it in 2, or we lose the Game 3.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and
I'll say this
say
in 2.
okay. I'm going to go ahead and say that we're going to win it in 3. I think it's going to be, although the roster for LSU and even the bullpen has kind of found where they're at right now. I think LSU is going to win this in 3. I think there might be the weather might play a factor. I think Paul Skeens is going to come out and pitch like he always has. I think he's chasing that strikeout record. But I think, depending on how the weather goes and depending on how the rest of the series goes, I'm thinking that we'll probably drop one. And I don't think it'll be against Skeens, so I think we'll drop it on Sunday and then wrap it up. So I'm saying LSU in 3.
All right. Well,
And
that means we get to go to 2 games because you're getting out of work Monday to go to the game, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was very difficult for me to sit at my office
And
when
watch that game. See,
LSU
my
baseball.
thing is done. You might as well leave because what are you gonna do while the game's going on? So I mean, what's really the difference?
I can do both at the same time. I can work and I can watch LSU baseball,
Yeah.
and then intently enough to be able to speak on a podcast the following week. No, if LSU makes it to Game 3 on Monday, which I'm predicting that they will, I will do everything in my power to play hooky for the day and head out to the box, because you got to think about it. Like, this is the last chance you are going to get to see Paul Skeens and Dylan Cruz, and it might be a long, long time before you see one or 2 guys come through LSU on the same team of this caliber.
And John, we might have to, if the potential Monday night game is at night, we might have to get Jeff and Casey over at the House Bar in Tigerland to open up. What do you think about that?
I think that'd be great. I think if you can't make it out to the game, I know super regional tickets are
Yeah,
expensive. We do want
for
to pack the
sure.
box. I guarantee they will have the game on over at the House Bar
Yeah,
in Tigerland. Make
dress
sure
down.
make sure to head on over there. I think we said that if LSU wins the super regional, we got to go there. I think that's what we said last week, Luffy. I think you promised that to the Out the Box faithful. But get on over to the House Bar in Tigerland, houseintigerland.com. That's where I got this awesome hat that I'm wearing right now. I wore it out during the weekend. Comfortable hat, feels great. Summertime's the time for hats. You don't feel like dealing with your hair and whatnot. Throw a house hat on. I mean, what else would you rather do than rep the House Bar in Tigerland or go drink a beer there? Best beer, best pizza, best vibes in Tigerland. Get on over to the House Bar in Tigerland. Also, shout out DraftKings, enter promo code BOOT. Bet just $5 and get $200 if your team wins. 21 plus restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Luffy, I got a few comments, and we don't normally get negative comments on because a lot of the people that listen to the show are our friends, and we like to treat them as such. But a few people, no names, not going to mention any names, said
Okay.
that they were underwhelmed at the parting words that you gave LSU baseball heading into the regional last weekend. So,
Hey, it
um,
works. So I think I'm going back to the same thing.
okay, so do you want to try again?
I mean, not if it's working, right? Baseball players are superstitious.
Okay, we'll do the thing.
Go Tigers.
Wow. That I couldn't have done that better myself. That was awesome. And I'll be the first to say
Thank
that
you.
that was so much better than last week.
Thank you to me, everyone. I would expect thank yous because you know I did win us last weekend, so I'll take the
Shout
thank
out,
yous Monday after we win again.
shout out to all of
Oh,
our
I'm
great
sorry,
sponsors.
Sunday after we win. Tigers in
It's gonna be
2.
Monday. Shout out to all of our great sponsors: the House Bar Tigerland, Wordbox LLC, Blaine Loop with Forte Realty, the Boot Crew Media Network, and DraftKings. We are going to record an episode next week after LSU punches their ticket to the O word. I cannot be more excited, Luffy.
Go Tigers.